Hello students, welcome to Excel class number 14. The topic of the day is cell references and we will study about mixed cell reference technique in this video. So this is example number 4 on cell references. Here we have monthly revenue in this section and we have the percentage of expense spent in this section. We need to calculate the total expense spent in these months. So for that we will use a formula equal to revenue, which is in cell B6 of Jan month. So we are copying this formula from left to right as well as from top to bottom. So two questions will be asked for the cell address B6. The question will be for column B, that while copying this formula from left to right, we need these column references to be incremented or we need the value from the same column. See, the revenues are in column B, column C, column D, column E and column F. So we want B to be kept as it is, because while copying a formula from left to right, this cell address, we want the value to be picked up from the cell C6 in the next cell. And second question will be for the row reference. The revenue is in row number 6. So Jan, Feb, March, April, May data is in row 6. So we know that while copying it from top to bottom, the row reference will increment, but we don't want it to be incremented. So for that, we will press F4 key one time and another time. See, we have $sign in front of 6, that is row reference in a cell address. This will freeze the movement of row reference. So we will have a value from B6 cell only in the next cell while copying a formula from top to bottom. Multiply by expense 1. So same two questions will be asked for the column reference and row reference. So first question is whether I want to keep column address as a relative reference or we want to freeze it. The values of expenses are in column I and for every value the column I is same. So we want this column reference to be freezed, because if we move this cell address to right, the value will be picked from J4 cell, and in J4 cell we have the value as column I. We have marked these columns and rows numbers to understand the cell reference technique in a better way. So we will freeze the column reference by pressing F4 key 3 times. We have $sign in front of I. Second question is for the row reference. So the data of expense I4, see the row 4, row 5, row 6 and row 7. Expense 2 is in row 5 and expense 3 is in row 6. Expense 4 is in row 7. So we want the movement of row reference not to be freeze. We want it to be relative reference. So control enter. See, we have the values of expenses in this section. In the last cell, we will check whether the cell addresses picked are correct or not. We will press F2 key. We have the revenue picked up from the F6 cell, which is the revenue of May month, and multiplied by expense 4, which is 4%. So the cell addresses in this last cell is correct. That means the formulas in all these cells are correct. Control enter. Now we will calculate the total expense in this section equal to sum bracket start B7 till B10. We have the expense 1 to expense 4 bracket close. We are copying this formula from left to right, that is only in one direction. So we need to check whether we want to freeze the column reference B or we want to keep it as it is, because only the column reference will increment in this case. We need the expenses of the Feb month in the next cell, that is from C7 to C10. So we will keep this column reference as a relative reference. Control enter, and if we copy this from left to right, we get the expense of the my month. F2, F7 to F10, which has the values of expenses of my month. Control enter. The formula of net income is revenue minus total expense, which is in cell B11. So we will keep these cell addresses as a relative cell address. So we want the column references to be incremented. So we keep these cell addresses as it is. Copy the formula from left to right. Check the formula in the last cell. We have the correct cell addresses, that is F6 and F11. F6 has the revenue of the my month and F11 cell has the total expense of the my month. If the cell addresses in the last copied cell is correct, that means formulas across the borders are correct. We have used a mixed cell reference technique over here. What do we mean by mixed cell reference? If either row or column reference is locked, here if we check the formula F2, in the first cell address B6, we have locked the row reference. That means we have freeze the movement of the row reference. By doing this, we call it as relative column, means the column reference is free to move but absolute row, and we have freeze the movement of the row reference, that means absolute row. And in case of I4 cell address, column reference is freezed and row reference we have kept it as it is. So column reference will remain as I, but the row reference is free to move. So this is called absolute column and relative row. So in the last cell, if we check this formula, so this F6, so the column reference has changed to F from B to F in this cell address, but the row reference, that is 6, will remain as 6. In second cell address in I7, this section, the column I is free, so this is same for all the values. But if you see, we had row number 4 in the first formula, it has changed to 7, because while copying it from top to bottom, the row references are incremented to 7. So in this section, column reference is relative and row reference is absolute. In second cell address, column reference is absolute but row reference is relative, that is free to move. Thank you.